All right, let's get right into this. We're talking about an incredible story, a forgotten king, an ancient treasure, and a discovery that honestly almost never happened. This is the amazing story of the Arjan Treasure.
We've all seen the movies, right? There's always that one golden ring that gives its owner unbelievable power and authority. It's such a classic fantasy idea. But what if I told you that a ring just like that, a real object of absolute power, was actually found in the real world? And nope, it wasn't forged in some mythical volcano, but in the highlands of ancient Iran. For 3,000 years, this thing remained completely hidden from the world, sealed away in a tomb with its owner, a king whose name history had totally forgotten. That is, until one very loud and very accidental moment. So our story doesn't start with archaeologists carefully dusting off old maps. No, it starts with a construction project back in 1982. We're on the banks of the Maroon River in southwestern Iran, and a crew is clearing land to build a dam. Just a totally normal day at work.
And then, that sound, a horrible screech of metal hitting something hard, something that definitely wasn't just a rock. The bulldozer blade had struck a man-made wall. Everything grinds to a halt. And when the dust finally settles, the workers realize they've literally smashed their way into a sealed, ancient chamber.
I mean, just stop and think about the amount of time we're talking about here. A king is buried around 600 BC. His tomb stays perfectly sealed as entire empires. The Romans, the Mongols, you name it, rise and fall. And then, nearly 2,600 years later, a modern machine just happens to break that ancient silence. Yeah, for nearly 3,000 years, this tomb was a perfect, untouched time capsule. And believe me, what they found inside was about to rewrite a whole chapter of ancient history. So let's head inside the tomb. The very first thing the archaeologists laid eyes on was, well, it was so weird it got nicknamed the King in the Bathtub. It turned out to be one of the strangest coffins ever discovered. And of course, that was the million-dollar question right away, wasn't it? Who was this guy? Who was so important that they deserved this kind of burial, surrounded by so much wealth? So this coffin, it was this massive U-shaped container made of bronze. I know, to you and me, it looks exactly like a bathtub. But for them, this shape was deeply symbolic. It represented a mythological primeval ocean called the Abzu. The idea was that by placing the king in it, they were guaranteeing his rebirth in the afterlife. Pretty cool, huh? And he definitely wasn't buried alone. He was surrounded by incredible stuff. A beautiful silver jar, a finely made dagger, and, get this, 98 solid gold buttons that must have been sewn onto his royal clothes. But among all these treasures, one artifact held the real key to his identity. And that brings us to the star of the whole show, a magnificent golden ring of power. This was the piece that was finally going to tell us who was buried in that tomb. Now, we're calling it a ring, but really it's this huge, heavy golden armlet. And you have to understand, this was way more than just jewelry. This was a badge of office. It was a clear, loud statement of absolute power, and probably even divine right to rule. And the craftsmanship is just breathtaking. At each end, there's a disc with a winged griffin, part lion, part eagle, a super powerful mythical creature. The level of detail in the muscles, the feathers, it's just incredible for something made so long ago. And right there, on the ring, the archaeologists found it. The answer, an inscription in the ancient Elamite language. It read, Kidin-Hutran, son of Kurlish. After almost 3,000 years of complete silence, this forgotten king finally had his name back. But Kidin-Hutran wasn't done telling his story. Let's look at another amazing object found at his feet, a bronze bowl that basically acts like a map of his entire world. This thing is incredible. It's engraved with 5 concentric circles, kind of like an ancient comic book. The circles show all these different scenes: hunting, fighting in wars, religious ceremonies. It's like a book of life, giving us this amazing window into what his kingdom was like. But here's where it gets really interesting. When experts looked at the artwork, they saw it was a total fusion of different styles. You've got the local Elamite traditions, sure, but you also see art from Assyria and even from Phoenicia, way over on the Mediterranean coast. This bowl is solid proof that Kidin-Hutran's kingdom wasn't some isolated place. It was a bustling, international crossroads for trade and culture.
And all of this, the ring, the bowl, this mix of styles, it all points to the treasure's biggest secret. This isn't just a rich king's tomb. It's actually a missing link in history, a piece of the puzzle that connects two of the ancient world's greatest empires.
See, Kidin-Hutran lived around 600 BC, and that was a really pivotal time. The ancient Elamite Empire, which had been around forever, was fading away. At the exact same time, a new superpower was just starting its meteoric rise, the Persian Empire, under the ancestors of guys like Cyrus the Great. And this is exactly why the Arjan Treasure is so ridiculously important. It's the historical bridge between those two worlds. It's the missing link that shows us precisely how one culture started to transform into the next one. And you can see that bridge perfectly in the Griffin Armlet. Its art style is this perfect hybrid. You can clearly see the Elamite roots, but it also has that stylized, raw power that would become the absolute symbol of the great Persian Achaemenid Empire. It's like the baton of history was being passed right there, in that one object.
It is truly wild to think that if that bulldozer blade had hit just a few inches to the left or right, all of this, the king, his name, this crucial link in world history, it all could have been crushed into dust, lost forever. Today, thankfully, it's all safe in the National Museum of Iran. And really, that leaves us with one last question to think about. What's the more incredible story here? The discovery of a forgotten king's magnificent treasure? Or the fact that we came within inches of losing this irreplaceable piece of our shared history forever?